Good evening, my fellow citizens. This government, as promised,
I have ordered attacks on enemy military bases.
There can be no greater good than the quest for peace, and no finer purpose than the preservation of freedom.
One peculiar outgrowth in having a bipolar world during the Cold War was that they didn't remove having regional conflicts and regional ambitions. And so what you wound up having was a lot of these smaller nations were taking advantage of the opposition of two supporting powers. And so one of these, of course, was Saddam Hussein and his regime in Iraq. He launches an invasion in the summer of 1990 against Kuwait. And so the United States, of course, gets involved because this is where most of our oil at the time was coming from, and we certainly didn't want Saddam Hussein controlling oil prices. So Midway, even though she was the oldest and the smallest, she was the senior ship, not chronologically necessarily, but because Admiral March was flying his flag. She also famously operated well in the Gulf area, which is quite dangerous because this is a cul-de-sac. It's rather confined waters, and you have two unfriendly countries, one of whom is an active combatant, the other one could potentially become a combatant, on either side of this cul-de-sac.
Operational tempo, even through Desert Shield. Again, we're the first ones in theater, so we were the only carrier on scene for literally months before the forces really started to converge. And we kind of wore some stuff out, even before the war started. The non-skid on the flight deck is one example. We wore out the non-skid, which is very critical on a ship like Midway that pitches and rolls far more than any other carrier. We were down to bare steel in vast areas on the flight deck, and I had never seen that before.
One thing that made her unique in those years was the fact that her air wing was permanently assigned to the ship, and it turned out to be very effective in the Midway's case because even though she only had 2 catapults to the 3 or 4 that you would have with the larger carriers elsewhere, she had a higher cyclic rate because these guys have been operating on the flight deck between the aviators and the plane directors and then the flight deck crew to the point where they could practically read each other's minds.
We were almost considered ship's company. So instead of being rivals, we were partners. We knew each other on a first name basis.
We knew them, they knew us, they knew how we operated, and it was just, it was harmony.
We had 2 catapults, and we were launching as many sorties as these bigger decks with 4 catapults.
We would get in competition with other ships within our class, and we would win the Battle E, and the Battle E was like you were the best at what you did.
Reflexively, I'd always look at my watch, and you can just see the second hand of your watch striking the 12. At the very moment that spear hits the water break. And every time it did, it just warmed my heart that the guys in the engine room are doing their job, the skipper's doing his job on the bridge, the air boss is doing his job, but hundreds and hundreds of 18 to 20-year-old sailors are doing their jobs just exactly right.
She was the only one that didn't suffer a single operational loss during the war.
The coordination and teamwork on Midway was something that I've never seen anything like it, and probably never will again.